Welcome in, I'm Artress, and in this video we're going to be going over Black Purple Luffy, a new leader from OP09. But before we go over the leader ability and also the deck list, you guys should be aware that I'm currently hosting a giveaway to celebrate hitting 5,000 subscribers. I'm giving away these 3 Dawn, which you can get from Treasure Cups and Regionals, and the way that I'm doing the giveaway is all you have to do is be subbed to the channel, make sure you comment on a new video from now until December 22nd, and also make sure to react to the announcement post within the Discord. The link for that is in the description below. A winner will be chosen at random and will be announced on December 23rd. So make sure you join that before it is too late. So this brand new Luffy is a dual color leader with 4 life that says Dawn ×1, your characters have +1 cost, and the additional text is your turn once per turn. When 2 or more Dawn cards are returned to your Dawn deck from play, set up to 1 from your Dawn deck as active and up to 1 from your Dawn deck as rested. So there's a bunch of on-play abilities that this leader has that will allow you to minus Dawn, multiple Dawn in a turn, and then from there you can get your second leader effect, which is very powerful, a great way for you to be able to ramp up faster just by being able to play things that you normally would want to play on top of that. So this leader being in black, you would assume that there's a lot of KO abilities. However, the way that this leader has been built is there's a bunch of tempo-based or card advantage-based activations on play things that you can do that will accumulate a pretty big hand size over the course of a game. Going into the deck list, starting off, I'm running 3 of the Mr. 2 Bond Clay. Now, typically with this leader, you're going to want to go first, but the times that you are going second, this is a great turn 2 play. Being able to play this down, have a body that threatens your opponent, and then also ramping up 1 so you can get to your top end a little bit faster. This is also really great against decks like Shanks, so that if you throw this down right before their 10 Dawn turn, it's going to be really hard for them to, or not hard, but rather they're not going to want to play their 10 drops because now you have a 12k body or maybe an 11k body with the minus cost from the Shanks to swing at them in return. I'm running 2 of the 10 cost Time Walk Luffy. This is a great deck for this character. It's a 10 cost 12,000 power body that says on play Dawn -10. Place all of your characters other than this character at the bottom of your deck in any order. Then after this turn, take another turn. Activate main once per turn, pay 1 Dawn, add 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck as active. So this is one of the few leaders that when you play this leader, you do get Dawn back, so you can activate the second part of this effect. You would be able to play this pretty early and be able to then ramp back up afterwards pretty easily with other cards in the deck. So this is actually one that you could play to use as a finisher. You can also play this on curve and probably be okay and get back to your 10 Dawn pretty fast. Then we're running 2 Shiki. This is a 2-cost blocker that says on play if your board has 8 or more Dawn, draw 1 card, then discard 1 card from your hand. You can play this pretty early as just like a easy way to block something, but then later in the game when you are playing like your Morias, this is a great blocker to come back out of the trash and then filter your hand even further. I'm running 4 Black Maria. This is a 2k counter. It's not searchable in the deck, but it's a really strong 2k counter in purple. It says activate main once per turn. If you have other no Black Maria, add up to 5 Dawn cards from your Dawn deck rested. Then at the end of your turn, return Dawn cards from your field to the Dawn deck until the number of Dawn cards on your field is equal to the number on your opponent's field. So there's 2 different things you can do here. One, after that you've played the 10 cost Monkey D Luffy, Time Walk Luffy, you can play the Black Maria down the following turn and then ramp back up that way. However, you can also play this on curve on your 3 Dawn turn if you don't have any other play to be made and use the effect. And then at the end of the turn, you return all of your Dawn. And because your leader ability says if you return 2 or more Dawn, you gain 1 active, 1 rested, you actually ramp up 1 from that. So that's actually a pretty nice effect there. You can use it in different ways. So I think it's a really good card to be added into the deck. Then we have a new addition from OP09. Well, I guess all of these are new additions because this is a new leader, but this is an OP09 card. Sanji with a 7 cost, 7,000 power body stat line with a 1k counter. On play, you may return 1 or more of your Dawn cards from play to your Dawn deck. This character gains Rush for this turn, then rest up to one of your opponent's cost 6 or lower characters. This is a great card to be able to play, just to be able to gain some tempo of like resting a card on your opponent's side of the field, swinging into it, likely removing it, or at least getting a lot of cards out of the opponent's hand. This has Rush, and it also activates your leader ability by minusing 2 Dawn in that turn, so you're gaining 2 Dawn back by playing this down. So really great card, has great synergy with your leader. I have it at 4. You might want to run a little bit less, maybe at 3, but ultimately I think this is a really strong card. Then we're running 4 of the Trafalgar Law. This is a 1 cost 2,000 power searcher. On play, look at the top 4 cards of your deck and reveal it to 1 cost 2 or greater card with Straw Hat Crew or Heart Pirates type and put it into your hand. Then place the rest of the cards on the bottom of your deck in any order. It's important that's 2 or greater because it doesn't unfortunately grab your counter event, the Gum Gum Giant, which is one of the most powerful cards in this deck, but it does grab mostly everything else that you do see, or at least we're going to come across. Obviously, a couple of the cards we've talked about so far, it doesn't touch, but like the Mr. Tubanclay, the Shiki, or the Black Maria, but pretty much everything else from here on out, it will be able to grab. So that's very powerful there. Obviously, this is a very strong opener and a very good card to bring back with Moria as a way to just get card advantage. So you can bring this out. You can also bring a couple other cards out as well. Next, we're running Frankie from OP09. This is a 4 cost 5,000 power blocker that says on play Dawn -2, discard 1 card from your hand, and then draw 2 cards. So this is a very strong card to be able to filter out. And I really like playing this with Moria, so I will usually use this as a counter to throw it in the trash to make sure that I can get it back with Moria. Ideally, when you're playing your Moria, you are able to bring out the Frankie and maybe a Shiki that we just talked about, or the Trafalgar Law. So you're gaining card advantage ultimately with this. And the Frankie, otherwise, you can play it down on curve. You can play it down on 5 if you so choose, and then just have a blocker down. You can also use the effect and not go Dawn minus because your leader ability gets that Dawn back. Next up, we are running 2 Beppo. This is a 2K counter that is searchable with the Law Searcher. It just says your turn once per turn. When your Dawn cards are returned to your Dawn deck, choose one of your leaders during this turn. They gain 1,000 power. I think you can actually put it on other characters. This might be a misprint within the sim. Don't hold me to that, but I think I have used it on other characters. So that being said, you can use this on a Moria play if you have no other like 2 cost or lower to bring out with Moria. So this could be a decent card to be brought out. It's pretty solid into Shanks as well because it will boost your leader up by 1,000, and so Shanks can't just like naturally use their leader ability to minus your leader, so you are gaining some value there. Then a very important card to the deck is a Zoro, a 3 cost 5,000 power body that says on play you may return 1 or more Dawn cards from play to your Dawn deck, and then set up to 1 Dawn card from your Dawn deck into play as active. So with this Luffy on 3, you are able to play this Zoro out, use your Zoro ability to -2, then you use your leader ability to gain 1 active, 1 rested, and then this Zoro gains an additional 1 active. So you kind of like hyper ramp because of this. Although it doesn't have counter, it's a very powerful card, and later in the game, if it is a card in hand and you don't need to use the effect, you can always pitch it from some of the other effects like Frankie or your Gum Gum Giant. Then we have 3 of the new 9 cost 10,000 power secret Luffy. This is a on play you may return 1 or more Dawn cards from play to your Dawn deck. Draw 1 card, then this character gains Rush for this turn. So another card that gains you card advantage, plus also immediately is able to attack. So this is very powerful. I love this card in this deck. I haven't seen too many deck lists actually run this. There are a few that do, but I think mostly people either tend to lean heavily into the 10 cost Time Walk Luffy, or maybe they go into like the Kaidos, the 9 cost Rush Kaido. I think Kaido is a pretty good serviceable card for this deck, but I don't necessarily like minusing that much Dawn in a single turn, and instead I like being able to draw the card and also have a rush unit. So this is why I included this Luffy instead. Additionally, it is a searchable top end piece off of the Law, so that's also very important. Next up, we're running 4 of the Usohachi. It's a 2K counter that says on play if you have 8 or more Dawn, rest up to 1 of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. So this is very great, but so this is very strong, being able to rest a blocker to go for game, or maybe you want to trade into a body that is 5 or less, although we have a better card to do that, which we'll get into in a second. But ultimately, it's a searchable 2K that has great utility, one of the best purple 2Ks, I think, in the game. And then finally, I've talked about this card so many times, but if you're running black and you're not Teach, then you're probably going to be running this card. So 8 cost Gecko Moria is, to me, a must in this deck. It says on play, choose up to 1 cost 4 or less and up to 1 cost 2 or less character card from your trash, play 1 of them, then play the remaining rested. So like I said, your best play will be going and playing Frankie out, and then maybe like a Shiki or a Law Searcher, so that you're gaining card advantage. which is ultimately the best thing you could do in this card game. So I really like this. I think that this deck has great tempo. Your Morias are very much tempo based, as opposed to like a Lucci Moria, which would be like a KO based Moria, or like Smoker Moria is also KO based. This one is just great tempo. So I really love seeing this Moria, and also just stacking up Morias and being able to play a blocker every turn while getting a huge 9k body out can overwhelm the opponent pretty quickly. And then for the last bit of characters we have, it is the 5-cost 6,000 power Sanji from starter deck 14. It says on play, if you have a character with a cost of 6 or more, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. This synergizes very well with your leader ability by having one Dawn under your leader. Then when this comes out, this is a 6-cost character. And so this is basically the only removal effect that you have in the game on your side of the field, and it's a great one to have because in the mid game you want to just get rid of like these pesky bodies, and it's pretty good to go against like Doflamingo and be able to KO some of their units for free, and then you have a nice body to swing into afterwards. Unfortunately, this does not have counter, so keep that in mind, but you can pitch it, like I said, with the Zoro. You can pitch this card as well with Frankie. You can also pitch it with the Gum Gum Giant, so it is not always a problematic card to have in hand. Then for some events that we have Gum Gum Lightning at 2. This is a 2-cost main event, says Dawn -2, KO up to one of your opponent's power 6,000 or lower characters, and the trigger is set up to 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck as active. What's important here is that you can use this ability and then gain the Dawn right back, so you're not necessarily minusing 2 Dawn. It's a really good card, and probably a card I'm going to mulligan more times for than not when I'm going against a Doflamingo, because this card can answer bodies just free for you. And then finally, Gum Gum Giant, one of the best counter events in the game in my opinion, and it's a new card from OP09. It says counter Dawn -2. You may trash 1 card from your hand. If your leader has the Straw Hat Crew type, give up to one of your leader or characters plus 4,000 power for this battle, then draw 2 cards. So you are using this to get rid of a card that might be dead in your hand, and then you can basically refill your hand at that point to replace the 2 cards that you've just used. So this is a really powerful card overall. Of course, you're minusing 2 Dawn on your opponent's turn, so your ability, your leader ability, is not being activated. But usually you're not using this consecutively in the same turn on your opponent's turn, so you're not going to go down too far in Dawn, and you'll just gain it back when you naturally ramp up the following turn. I really, really enjoy this leader. I think this is one of the more fun leaders to come out of OP09, and I think it has great potential to be able to shake the meta a little bit. Obviously, Blackbeard and Shanks and Doflamingo are pretty present in this meta in OP09, but I think that Black Purple Luffy has a pretty solid place in it. Of course, going against Teach is going to be rough because he can just use his leader ability every turn and then just shut off everything that you do. So keep that in mind. That's probably going to be one of your worst matchups, and then Doflamingo can be an issue if they start getting a little bit more tempo than you do. So make sure you mulligan for your Gum Gum Lightnings and your Sanjis, because those will really help you out. Also, the Rush Sanji is pretty good as well, being able to rest Boa blocker or just one of the units that they might have standing up. So those are a couple matchups that might be a little bit tough, but I think ultimately you can play it to your best ability and be able to win those matchups. It could be a skill difference at the end of the day. There's a lot of different ways to build it. Also, I've seen some builds that go like 4 10-cost Kaido and Lin, and then they play like Sabos and the Black Marias so that they don't KO their own stuff, and then they can re-ramp up the following turn. So that's very interesting. But I think this version is better in my opinion, because I think that that 10-cost Kaido and Lin is a bait ultimately. But for the sake of this video, we're going to be going with this list because I really like it and I think it's pretty solid. So let's take it into the sim and see how it does. All right, we're going to be going against Shanks here, and normally I want to take first. However, we're going to try second out here because I know that Shanks really likes to go second. So we're going to go ahead and try to take it away, although maybe we should have taken first instead. But this is a solid opening hand because we do have a searcher that we can either find a 3-cost Zoro, or we can maybe find more top end here. So let's see what we get. And we do find the top end, of course, which is really nice. So that we have a couple of plays here. We have the 10-cost Time Walk Luffy. We also have the 9-cost Rush Luffy. So they swing 7. We're going to just take that because there's no point in countering out here. And then this next turn, I think it's probably solid to go ahead and just play down the Frankie and see if we can filter out our hand a little bit more. Although I do like the Sanji as a follow-up play for the next turn. So maybe we hold on to the Sanji and just get rid of the 7-cost Sanji. And we're instantly rewarded by having another one pop up. And we also have a Moria to play on 8. So our hand is looking pretty good here. So they, of course, are able to counter out of that. This next turn could be it's just a 5. Do I want to take this? I think probably counter out if we can, and giving a 2k is just okay. Unfortunately, I don't have a 1k that I want to give them. So this turn, we will be playing our Sanji, but of course the Lucky Roo will probably KO our Frankie. So let's just swing with the Frankie first and see what they do. They might use their leader ability here. They just block with the Lucky Roo straight up. So, okay, our Sanji on play is kind of dead, but it's okay. At least we get another body on the field and gain that momentum back that way, even though we didn't get the on play effect of the Sanji. So I think that's okay because the Frankie was going to die anyway. This next turn could be a Ben Beckman from them because they're on 7 Dawn. It could also be maybe a 5 cost and then swing 5 and leave up. Oh, no, it's just a 9. It's just a big old 9 coming my way. I will take this, of course. Sometimes Shanks just doesn't have things to play, but we have a Moria next turn that I want to make sure I get a lot of value off of. So let's go ahead and counter out of this one so that we can get back some of the things that we have on the field. So we're going to be able to play this Moria down, get the Frankie back, and then also play the Beppo that we countered out with that previous turn, and then be able to swing 6 with our leader. We'll go Frankie, and then Beppo. And then this Beppo, like I said, once we use the Frankie ability to minus Dawn, we'll just pitch probably... this is a tough one. Maybe the 9 costs. Well, it worked out. We got another one in return. So we will then... I'm going to actually bump up my Frankie because I think he's actually going to be baiting with a Red Hawk, and I don't want him to KO the Frankie. And we'll still be able to swing 6 with our leader. I think that's probably our best play here because he has 3 open, and what could he have that could be able to, you know, counter out with? Red Hawk is usually it. He could have like Rad Beam or Guard Point, and I think he might have had a Red Hawk, and that's why we put the 1 on the Frankie there. We go Silver's Rayleigh to -3 to the Sanji, and then -2, I assume, to the Frankie. What would be ideal for him would be like KO the Frankie and then swing into the Sanji. But no, he just KOs the Sanji and then swings at life, maybe? Oh, the Beppo. Okay, that's fine. Ultimately, that's like... I think this is a really good play for me because now I can just play my 9-cost Luffy and feel pretty comfortable overall. So we're going to go ahead and do that, play it down so that I get the Dawn in return. We draw the Sanji, which is not a great card for us to draw here. And we'll swing 6 into lead. Because they have 1 open, I'm not afraid of the Frankie being KO'd by Red Hawk. We'll swing 7 with the Moria. This one might be used with the leader ability and a 2k. Seems to be the case. And then 10 lead. This will likely be a hit here. And then they're going to be on 10 Dawn this next turn, so they're probably going to be dropping their 10-cost Rush Shanks, which minuses 1,000 power to everything on the board. So we just have to be careful on like how we counter out because we want to make sure our big units stay alive here. So I would assume they swing 5 with the Shanks. They're just going to go probably swing characters first, character into character. So we'll give them a 1k Law so that we can bring it back with the Moria the next turn. And then we're just going to block this one because why not? And then I think we should just take this hit. And then this turn, we're definitely going to be playing the Moria, in my opinion. I think that's probably our best bet. And I really want to pressure their life because I don't think it makes sense to pressure the bodies on the field. So we're going to swing 8. We'll play out the Moria. I also am thinking about here that we could play the 10 cost as well if they do take this, but they don't, so they counter out. So we're not going to play the 10 cost just yet. I don't think it's quite time to do that. We'll play out the Moria, get back a Frankie, and then get back the 1 cost Law so that we have extra things to gain in our hand. Unfortunately, we don't have much here that we can grab that is worth anything for us. Maybe some fodder for the Gum Gum Giant, although the Gum Gum Lightning is pretty solid if they do play a blocker down. And then we'll just swing 7 into the lead. And they use leader ability and then give us a 2k so that they stay at 1 life. It kind of tells me that they don't have a Roger this turn because if they just took it, they might just play Roger and then go all in. And then I'd have to like counter out of everything, which to be fair, I probably could because the leader swing's pretty easy here. So with that in mind, we have to keep in mind that they could have a Roger here. So just counter out where it makes sense. Use our blocker where it makes sense as well. Gum Gum Giant is perfect here because now we get the perfect +4 and then pitch a card from hand. They play out Dragon. They swing 7. I can counter out of this one because as you can see, I have a lot of counter in hand. So let's just give them a 1 and a 2. And then we can probably block this one because we're not going to be swinging with this Frankie next turn. We're going to be going and playing the 10 cost. This is pretty much overkill anyway. So we're going to swing 8. Let's see what they do. Rad Beam, pretty solid. Another 8. See what they do here. They go leader ability plus probably guard point. Okay, then we'll swing 9. This will likely connect. This will connect, not likely. It will connect. And then we'll... they had only 2 cards in hand. And then we'll play the 10 cost. And of course, that is... they can't counter out of 3 more swings here. So yeah, we just played it super safe, but I think that's the way to do it. You want to build up the board, get some big bodies down, and then play the 10 cost to finish out if you don't have the 10 cost to play on curve where it makes sense to play it. All right, going against Nico Robin, this one's going to be a tough one, and our hand doesn't have much counter at all. But I do like the fact that we have the 3 cost Zoro to be able to ramp up pretty quickly. So hopefully they don't swing 8 at our face, which they always do. Why did I expect them to do anything different here? So they swing 8. They use their leader ability to pitch a card with counter and then ramp up, so they'll be at 6 this next turn. We'll throw down our Zoro, and then we don't really have much else to play, so we're just going to go ahead and just swing 8 right back at them, although we don't have Banish, so this 8 is definitely better for them to take than us to take. This turn, they'll probably play the 6 cost Nico Robin, which just trashes a life if we are at 3 or higher. So that's really unfortunate. We're already at 2 life, and we haven't gotten any card advantage from this. So we do have to counter out here, but I'm unsure of what to give them. I assume maybe like the 4 cost. Yeah, because I think that's probably our best bet, just to play the Sanji. Actually, sorry. No, we're going to play the Gum Gum Lightning to be able to kill this Robin, and then we can swing 5 with the Zoro, and then we can just throw down a Sanji just to have a body on the field. We'll swing 5, we'll swing 6, and then play the Sanji down, even though it doesn't KO anything. That's totally fine here. We just need to be able to put a lot of bodies on the board and then kind of overwhelm them with attacks, because Robin will, once they get to like 9 Dawn turn, which is their next turn, they can start playing bodies that will heal them, which is unfortunate for us. So this turn, I expect maybe a Yamato. No, a Linlin. Pretty solid from them. So they can play out this Linlin, heal, and then get rid of the Sanji and probably swing 5 into the Zoro. Because I'm so low on hand size, I'm just going to give it to them, unfortunately. And then this turn, I'm going to play out the Sanji, swing 7, and then have a Gum Gum Giant to be able to counter out and then just draw into something, maybe more top end this next turn. I do want to take the hit from the Linlin because it gives a card in my hand. I usually will counter out of the leader swings and then just take the swings from the other units that don't have Banish, of course, because it's unfortunate. And in here, I want to get some top end, so I'm going to go ahead and use the Gum Gum Giant to filter my hand out and see what we can get. I want a top end, and boy, did we get it. Okay, so we have a couple of Luffys that we can play the following turn. Pretty solid from us. I'm going to bait them out this next turn to see what they do. Oh, ace. Ah, yikes. They heal up. That's pretty unfortunate. But let's swing 5. Let's swing 6. And then... now that they know I have a huge unit coming at them, they might counter out of these smaller swings, and then we can either pivot and swing Luffy into Linlin or Luffy into life. But because they might counter out of this one, it could be where we just pivot and use the extra Dawn to swing 11 to 9. And so they're going to let that one go, which is really good because we can just like trade bodies here. They swing Ace into Luffy, which is really strange. I feel like they should just swing into my face. But I have to go down in card size, unfortunately, or hand size, rather, because I do not want to go to 1 life. So let's swing 10 into 10. They're at 3 cards, so this is going to hurt them a lot. They give us a 2k, so that tells us a lot here. Let's go ahead and use this Luffy and then swing into the Ace. 12 into 10, another really strong counter there. We'll swing 5, and then we'll swing 6. Get them down to hopefully 2 life again. Counter out. 2 cards in hand, I guess 3 now, and we actually have, in turn, because of these Luffys, gotten some good hand size because of this. Let's get the Sanji out of the way. We're going to need this Frankie to be able to pitch. They don't even swing with their leader, which I am surprised on, but I would have given them a 2k if that was the case. Let's swing 12 into 10, and they counter out. They're countering out of both. Wow, just no cards in hand. That means we are free to do whatever we want. Swing 5, let's swing 7. I probably should have put a Dawn under my leader so that in case they had like a KO trigger, it doesn't KO the Sanji, but that's okay. We are never punished, right? We'll use the Frankie, we'll draw 2, play down this Law, see what else we can get. We get another 2k off the Law, which is perfect for us, and now we can set up a Moria the following turn and get back this Frankie if we use it to block. Of course, we're just going to counter out of this one, and then if they go really big with this Robin, then I think we just use the Frankie to block here. Okay, so they're going to go Lin Lin. I don't know exactly what they would want to do here, but if I were them, I might just get rid of the Frankie. They don't. They get rid of the Sanji, which is fine. Sanji's a threat to them as well. And I think I'm just going to use this Frankie to block because we're going to get it back the following turn anyway. And let's just poke at this ace because they have one card in hand. They either have to give us that card or let the ace go. They give us the card. So then the ace goes anyway. So we're fine here. Swing 5 because we don't need to invest any Dawn here. We'll go Frankie, and then I think Law probably makes more sense than anything else. We'll grab probably the Luffy just so we have an additional big body to swing this following turn with card draw, and then we'll trash the Zoro to gain 2 cards. Oh man, we got a 2k and a 1k off of this. This is the value I'm talking about. When you play this Moria, you just refill your hand size every turn, and then you have a blocker, and then you have a huge body the following turn. It's just, it overwhelms the opponent way too much. So here we can safely use the Gum Gum Giant because I don't want to use my blocker just yet because they could just go crazy with the rest of their Dawn and swing with their leader. So we're going to go ahead and just counter out of that. And then if they swing anything here, which they don't, it looked like they were going to go crazy if that was the case. So we just use the Frankie to block, and then we kind of just push for game afterwards. We can start going like 5, 9, 10, 10, 10, which is just too much for them to counter out of. Battle of the Luffys here, Purple Luffy versus Black Purple Luffy. Which one will come out on top? In my opinion, I think Purple Luffy is probably a little bit of a better deck overall in the grand scheme of the meta, but I think Black Purple Luffy can hold his own. So let's go ahead and start off with probably our best start here. Play the Zoro down and then just swing 7. They'll likely take this one because 7's really annoying for Purple Luffy to have to deal with. And then this next turn, we do have the Bond Clay to play out. They have a Bond Clay of their own. Let's go ahead and take the 6 because I feel like I always just want to take the first hit. Oh, this next turn's really going to be spicy because we can play the Zoro down, use the ability, ramp up, and then we can play the Bond Clay down, ramp up again, and then swing 6-6. I think 6-6 is better than 5-7 because this just asks for 2Ks out of their hand as opposed to a 1K and then take. I don't really care if they take or not. I just want them to get cards out of their hand. But who knows? Maybe they just take all the life. Okay, that's very interesting that they take this. They might just be wanting to have a huge hand size, and then they don't even have the 7-cost Zoro on, or I guess Luffy Taro on curve, which is unfortunate for them. I will in turn take this hit because I only have the 2K, and we're lucky that they didn't just swing, 5-7 here. But that's okay. We'll swing, they'll swing 5 and we'll counter out with the 2K. We're going to get rid of the Bond Clay here. So we'll swing 5 into 1. And then we're going to swing 5, 5, and then use our 9-cost Luffy that we have already that we can play down. And then give the extra Dawn to the Bond Clay to swing 7. So 5, 5, 7, 10. It's pretty hard for people to counter out of course. So they will gain 1. They'll put the 1 under the Bond Clay, swing 7. This one I would imagine they probably should counter out of. They take, which is very surprising. And this one, if they take, then it might be just game at that point. I feel like this might be a little bit of a misplay from the opponent, which is, it happens. I think they should have counter out of the 7 if they had the ability to, and then not counter out of the 10. Just take the 10 at that point. The following turn, I feel pretty comfortable to just go and swing really hard here. And I am not going to counter out of these because I assume that they have a 9-cost. Yeah, I assume that they have a 9-cost of their own. And I don't think it makes sense to counter out of some of these attacks here. They might just swing 10 into the 5. And if that's the case, we'll just let it go. And then if they swing leader into my leader, we just give them the Frankie. And then pass the turn. We can also play Moria as well and start like being a little bit more tempo based. But let's go ahead and just get rid of this Sangoro, just because I feel like if I swing 10, they might have counter to give out. I feel like that might have been a misplay on my part, but we'll swing 6, have them give us a 2K. I just want to get rid of the thing that draws them cards, to be honest. And then we'll go 10 into lead and see what they do here. They take it, so I feel like we're pretty set for game because if they decide to blocker up, at least we can get rid of one of the blockers with the Gum Gum Lightning here. But instead they decided to go with the Lin Lin route and heal up, and I think that's fine if that's the only thing that they have. They'll go 6 into lead. I think we just counter out with our Gum Gum Giant because we're not going to be able to counter out of the 10 cost, or the 10,000 power rather. And I think it's fine to just go ahead and pitch this Law because in case we are unable to go for game here, which I think we can play the Moria as a backup and then get the Law back from it. And that's the reason why I pitched the law, even though it didn't really matter. So we'll just swing 20 because, yeah, we pretty much have game here. So I will say that this deck does ramp up really fast against Purple Luffy, and that can be overwhelming, but maybe they should have not taken as much damage as they did. All right, going against Red Yellow Sabo here. I think this hand's really solid. We have a good curve. We're going first. We have the Law to play down. We have the Zoro to play down afterwards. So let's go ahead and just grab that, and then we'll be able to play this Zoro down the following turn. Ramp up, swing 7 into lead. They will likely take this one, and we'll just pass the turn from here. Our curve is really strong, actually. The fact that we have a Frankie to play down to filter our hand if we need it the next turn. We can play the Sanji down as well, which is really nice. And then we can play the 9-cost Luffy, which has Rush the following turn. So they just play down a blocker Sanji, which is totally good here. I will be able to KO this with our Sanji of our own. So we have Sanji on Sanji Violence, which is a really good top deck, or I guess not top deck, but just a draw to get into. We have the Zoro to swing, and then we have the 6 from the Luffy. And what's also important here is Sabo usually runs some kind of KO abilities like Nami. And so having the one under our leader guarantees that if they do decide to play Nami or some kind of KO ability, it's likely not going to be able to touch our Sanji. So as you can see, they play down a Nami. So they'll pitch a card to KO something from, or pitch a card from their hand, KO the Zoro, because that's the only real target that they should be able to KO. And then they'll swing 6 at lead. I don't know if countering out here makes sense or not, but I feel like I probably could just take it because going to 2 is okay for me. I will use the Rush Sanji to rest the Nami. And then I think I'm just going to swing 6 into the Sanji, or sorry, 6 into the Nami rather, start off with, and then swing another 6 into it if it doesn't go, which it did. This will guarantee that our Sanji, if they have another Nami to follow up, doesn't get KO'd with it. Swing 6, they take it. And then this could be a trigger of some sort. Sanji. So this is just a battle of Sanjis, it seems. And we'll go 7 at lead. They might want to block this one, or maybe they just want the body on field, which is totally fine. They do take it and go down to 1, which is pretty dangerous for them. In the following turn, we can play our 9-cost Luffy and feel pretty comfortable to leave up a Dawn or 2 to have the Gum Gum Giant as a way to stay alive. But this turn could be really difficult for them because they are staring down a pretty wide board, or not wide, but a threatening board rather. So this could be where they go like 8 with the Luffy and then put the Luffy up into life, give Sanji plus 2,000, and then have like a 6k from their leader, and then 7,000 with the blocker. Here I'm just going to counter out and keep my Sanji alive because if I have the counter for it, might as well. There's no reason to give them this. And then they might go 7 into the Sanji. Yep. And then if they decide to go 6 into 6, I will use the Gum Gum Giant. I'm not afraid to, but they decide to go at lead, and that's fine. Now we can really just pressure their face. So let's go 6 at lead, ask for a 2k. This is probably going to be where we can't go for game anymore. So we're going to go 6 at lead again, have them give us either 2k or they take this life. Likely, they will have to counter out somewhere along the line. I think 2 and 1 has to be given here because otherwise they probably just lose. So it's a 0-cost event. Let's see what they pitch. They didn't pitch the Luffy, so they do have the Luffy in hand. They're probably going to try to go for game here. So let's get rid of the other body on the field so that they cannot really go for game easily if they have a couple of rush units. We do have a Gum Gum Giant to at least keep us alive here. And it looks like they didn't have it. That was probably their plan, was to go with the Sanji, go with the Luffy. And they call me fat, so Notorious PIG. I don't know if that's a compliment or not from somebody with that name, but we'll take it, I suppose. As you can see, this Luffy is very easy to accumulate a very big hand size very fast as the game goes on, which is what I really love about this leader. It will allow you to pretty much dig through your entire deck. I think most of the games that I play with this leader, I've probably drawn a good 30 cards over the course of a game, and I think as the game goes on, the better it becomes. The problem with this leader is that it's 4 life. If it was 5 life, obviously it'd just be too busted at that point. So 4 life kind of keeps it in check, of course. But the fact that you do have access to the Gum Gum Giant, which is, I think, one of the best counter events in the game. You have access to Moria, you have access to the Time Walk Luffy, the new 9-cost Rush Luffy. You can also add other things in, like I mentioned, some builds are running Kaido. You have access to Sabo blocker. There's a lot of different ways to build it, and I think that as the meta goes on, this will change. Like this deck list might change, the way I play it might change, but at least with the start, I am really comfortable with how this operates. You could look to maybe remove the bond clays, but I do think that the bond clays are pretty important in some matchups. So I'm not sure what you could cut right now. Maybe some Sanjis, maybe like alter some of the ratios here and there. But I have to say I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. Ultimately, I hope you guys take a chance with this deck and see how it goes. I was able to actually pull the leader in one of my boxes, so I might build this on the side for fun, because I do think, even though I said for fun, I think it is a pretty competitive deck as well that might be able to take some games off some people if they're unfamiliar with how it plays for sure. So ultimately, I think that this deck has potential. I really hope that somebody does well with it. It might be me. It probably won't be, but maybe it'll be somebody out there. Let me know what you guys think about the deck overall. As always, I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you so much for the support, and I'll see you guys in the next video.